American dream. To his last breath, he'll always be a soldier.
Heard on great radio stations all across America. It's the National Defense with Randy Miller and Jerry Newberry.
The National Defense is made possible by Ford. Go further. By the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. By VSP. For more information on how VSP can help you in your corrective vision needs, visit VSP.com. By the Wounded Warrior Project, serving those who sacrificed for over 15 years. Online at woundedwarriorproject.org. By Gillette On Demand. Get Gillette quality blades delivered directly to your door with Gillette On Demand. Learn more at GilletteOnDemand.com. By Morgan Stanley. Discover how they can help you achieve your long-term financial goals at morganstanley.com. By Farmers Insurance. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Find an agent at farmers.com. By Gorilla Glue, makers of Gorilla Tape for the toughest jobs on planet Earth. And by Gillette Clear Gel Antiperspirant. It goes on clear and keeps you fresh all day, and it doesn't leave white marks on your shirt.
This is the National Defense. Randy Miller along with Jerry Newberry. As always, our dedication.
Hey, this show's for you, the men and women serving on active duty in the Guard and Reserves. It's for the millions of veterans out there, and it's for all their families. We're here for you. We love you. God bless you.
Every time we have somebody on from Wounded Warrior Project, it's always a great conversation, and this is no exception. Tracy Farrell is with us. She's the Engagement and Physical Health and Wellness Vice President, which is a lot to do. Tracy, how are you?
I am awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Randy.
You are awesome. I mean, let's before we get into anything, let's talk about your military background as an MP.
Oh, it was such a great experience. You know, I thought going into the military I wanted to be military intelligence because my background was math. And so I had this degree and I thought, the analytics of it would be perfect. But the Army thought I'd be better as an MP, and they were absolutely right. The leadership opportunities and just the professionalism of military police is unsurpassed.
Well, and you not only you were a battalion commander and chief of military police, and I mean this is you led a 1,000 member policing team, and then you were also a trainer for the military. And I would imagine, is that kind of a daunting prospect? I mean, you got all these military folks that are already very, very well trained, physically fit, and then what did you do to even get them to another level?
Well, I think anybody who's a leader is a trainer, Randy. I think it's just finding whatever is the best in that individual and helping them become even better than that, and then helping them identify areas where they can perhaps succeed where they didn't think they could. And in many ways, that's what Wounded Warrior Project does with our veterans as well.
Yeah, and that's an important note too, Tracy. That confidence, that ability to kind of get outside yourself and realize your potential. You know, and we talk to so many people on the program. That aspect, that mentality, boy, that does a lot in terms of transitioning out too, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I think every approach is individualized, which is what I really admire about this organization, is we are not cookie cutter in any respect
right.
with regards to our programming or our approach to people. Each is a interaction. Every interaction matters, right? And so every time we talk with somebody gives us an opportunity to help them find the best in themselves.
Well, I you just told me a little while ago that you just completed a 35-mile run through the aspens of Colorado. So, I mean, to say that I'm very afraid of you, number one, but I mean, man, that is just incredible. And the pressure of being the Engagement and Physical Health and Wellness Vice President at Wounded Warrior Project, you better be in shape all the time.
Yes, it's a lot of energy. I think that's why I stay in shape, Randy. It's the fact that I need the energy to get through the day, not so much that I need to be anything else.
So tell us about how this program helps veterans at
Sure.
Wounded Warrior.
So as you mentioned, I have the pleasure of leading two really wonderful teams, and one of them is the Physical Health and Wellness Program. And as you mentioned, most service members are in the best shape they can be when they're on active duty.
Right.
The requirements of PT, of just intensive training make it a necessity, but some veterans fall out of shape. Once the structure of military life is taken away for them or they incur new challenges, So every year we survey the population, and that helps us understand where to guide our programs and services. And what we've seen in the past years trending in a negative direction is the fact that too many warriors are considered overweight. If you look at the statistics, about 87% of our warriors qualify as either overweight, obese, or morbidly obese. And what's even more concerning about that number is this is over the national average. So with that in mind, we updated our program that focuses on physical health and wellness to provide ongoing support and coaching for warriors that are in the most severe need and the right motivation, right? Because as you can imagine, if you want to make a change, your mind has to be in the right place to do stuff.
Sure.
So we start with an event that's multi-day, bring the warriors together. We spend time teaching exercise techniques, nutrition, provide some take-home equipment, so you don't even have to have a gym membership in order to succeed.
Now, do these folks know what they're in for when they sign up?
Yeah, they do, because it is an intensive not intensive, but there is a phone conversation before it even starts of, here's what we're going to do. And it's 90 days. Are you willing to jump on board with us? And so it's a buy-in process for sure. Yeah,
and I can imagine maybe a few people missed the first day, got a little sniffles, can't go, car won't start. But I mean,
and in that case, we offer them the opportunity to do it again and another quarter, because it's a 90-day program, and so you have to hit those first 2 or 3 days together as a cohort, and then after that, we're going to call you about 6 times. So you can live anywhere in the United States, and we're going to call you and figure out what are your goals for the week, how can we help you attain these goals, and how can we help you in the other aspects.
Yeah, we will find you and make you sweat. I like that.
Yes.
And Tracy, you guys do such a good job. Wounded Warrior Project does a great job. The surveys you were talking about, and that accountability, that's key, isn't it?
It is, and that's why the model that is so important. We check in. Accountability is one of the most important elements of any type of behavior modification. And meeting the warriors on their terms is also important, right? But I will tell you, our knowledgeable staff just keep people on track.
Well, it's important to get back into that physical mindset, but how important is adjusting your diet and nutrition as well?
Oh, my goodness. Eating healthier, anybody will tell you eating healthier is the biggest part of the plan.
Yeah.
But we'll also tell you that learning good nutrition habits isn't easy. So many things will contribute to what you eat. It could be your mood, could be the food availability, could be the need to feel the body, but we're going to help you learn that eating good food can be just as enjoyable as grabbing that bag of Lay's.
Well, and that's so important and so great that you guys are such a complete program, and that's a great thing that you guys are doing. But now I know on the adaptive sports front, Wounded Warrior Project is kind of increasing its focus there too, right?
We've expanded our efforts to provide more opportunities for wounded veterans and to connect them with community resources, which is really important. You can have these one-time events, such as we had something in New York with snowboarding, and we had something down in Florida recently with kayaking and paddleboarding. But the relationships that we have with other established adaptive sports organizations helps us follow up after a warrior attends a weekend kind of expo or clinic to make sure they have the opportunities in their communities to continue with sport.
That is so important too, that follow up. A lot of organizations don't do that. They do the one-time things and there's no follow up. So it's great that you guys do that. I remember I was at the Bataan Death March Memorial Run a couple of years ago, and a lot of wounded warriors there that were just awesome. It was like, they've got 35-pound packs on their back, and it's just amazing to see them in action.
We actually bring warriors every year to that event as well, down just outside of El Paso, right? And let them have that opportunity to connect with one another and to achieve that monumental. That's 26.2 miles, or have that monumental experience of doing that marathon.
So, the equipment for these sports can be a little cost prohibitive. Do you help the veterans in that area too?
Oh, we sure do. In many cases, the VA will actually cover some of the equipment. And right now, our focus is those warriors who qualify for that support. But it can be kind of daunting to work through the process. So our specialists that work on our adaptive sports team helps the individuals navigate it a little bit.
I just saw a televised game of wheelchair rugby. I can't imagine.
That's amazing.
I just can't imagine that. Rugby's a tough sport already.
To watch.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So we're talking to Tracy Farrell. She's the Engagement, Physical Health, and Wellness Vice President for Wounded Warrior Project. So, Tracy, beyond the physical aspect, what other benefits are you seeing with these adaptive sports?
It really is the camaraderie. I mean, you talked about the group of individuals that went to Bataan. When we were helping warriors avoid isolation, and we're helping them connect with other veterans. When I attend an event, I observe the way men and women get along instantly. From that moment of introduction, it really is reinvigorating to be around other people that have had similar experiences and know what you're doing or know what you're dealing with. And that's the other part of my role. So in overseeing our engagement and community outreach efforts as part of the Engagement VP.
Well, so where can people listening find out more information, not only just about the adaptive sports, but the entire program?
Of course, we always have an online presence, right? Who doesn't these days? It's woundedwarriorproject.org.
Yeah, and that's one thing. The online presence is great, but that one-to-one, that connection, that face-to-face that you are doing on a daily basis, boy, that just it means so much. And Tracy, thank you so much for taking the time today. Have a great day, and thanks for the work you're doing.
You too.
And thank you for your service. Bye-bye. We'll be right back with the National Defense right after this word from Farmers Insurance. When you're dealing with life's ups and downs, it helps to know the ins and outs of insurance. Farmers Insurance has been sharing practical insurance knowledge for more than 89 years. At Farmers, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Find an agent at farmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
All right, welcome to F-150 Radio. Chad, go.
I know the F-150 kicks butt and takes names.
Like how the high-strength military-grade aluminum alloy F-150 thrashes the competition with best-in-class towing and torque?
Mm-hmm, totally saw that coming.
Chad, how do you know so much about F-150 beating the competition?
I drive the competition.
Oh, I'm so sorry. The Ford F-150. It doesn't just raise the bar, it is the bar.
Best-in-class claims with properly configured vehicles. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds GVWR based on Ford segmentation.
Now at the Home Depot, save up to 35% off appliance special buys. Like the Samsung stainless steel side-by-side refrigerator, just $998. You save $300. It's big enough to hold 25 bags of groceries. Unload those, and if that makes you thirsty, you'll really love the external ice maker and water dispenser. Today is the day for doing. Spring Black Friday savings now at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only while supplies last. See store for details. Valid through April 17th.
Gillette takes great pride in offering the right razor for every kind of face. Now you can get the right razor for your grooming needs when you need it with Gillette On Demand and have quality blades delivered right to your door. Subscribe to Gillette On Demand today and take $5 off your first order with special offer NDR5 at checkout. Enjoy free shipping, hassle-free billing, and you can change or cancel anytime. Visit online at GilletteOnDemand.com and remember, get $5 off your first order with special offer NDR5 at checkout. This portion of the National Defense is brought to you by Gorilla Glue, the makers of Gorilla Tape. Gorilla Tape has a tough, reinforced backing and is made with double-thick adhesive that grips to smooth, rough, and uneven surfaces. With a weather-resistant shell, Gorilla Tape can be used both indoors and out, which is perfect for applications in the field, including duck blinds, tree stands, and tent repairs. Gorilla Tape and Gorilla Glue for the toughest jobs on planet Earth.
We're standing guard with the truth. The National Defense.
Welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller, and time for another Morgan Stanley Money Brief. And here with us this week is Peter Perez, Senior Vice President and Wealth Advisor for Morgan Stanley. Pete, last week we talked about credit and the FICO credit score. Why don't we continue that discussion, but kind of give us a quick review, if you will.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So your FICO score is essentially a snapshot in time of your past willingness and ability to pay your bills.
Right.
So your FICO score is based on 5 factors. Paying your bills on time, that's 35%. How much money have you borrowed? That's 30% of your score. Then your average length of credit life, that's 15% of your score. The kind of credit you have, so think secured credit, let's say by a house or car, for example, versus unsecured credit like a credit card. That's another 10%. And then, of course, new credit or credit inquiries for new credit, that's the last 10%.
So things you can do to help improve your credit score: pay your bills on time, don't max out your credit cards, try not to open new credit cards too frequently, opt for the secured credit instead of unsecured credit, say credit card debt, and avoid those unnecessary credit inquiries.
Target.
Yeah.
Ceasefire, as we used to say in my tank crew.
Right.
Ceasefire. Generally speaking, credit cards are where people run into the most trouble.
Yeah, and why is it important, Pete, to maintain discipline when you're using credit and try to get that high credit score?
Man, that's a great question. The answer is access to credit and cost of credit.
Okay, access to credit, I understand, meaning that with good credit, more companies are willing to lend you money. What do you mean by cost of credit?
Great question. So let's start with the idea that no matter what you buy, there's a cost for it, right?
Yeah.
And well, borrowing money has a cost to it too. And that cost is the interest you have to pay to the person or company who lent you the money.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. So the cost of money is the rate of interest you pay to borrow it.
Exactly. And if you think about the cost to borrow money, it should be based on the risk that the money won't be paid back, right?
Right.
So, for example, if you buy a house and you don't pay, the bank can take the house back, right?
Yep.
In other words, the loan is secured by the house.
Right.
But what happens if you buy dinner on a credit card and you don't pay your credit card bill? The bank can't come and take back the meal, so the credit card is unsecured, right?
And I think they beat you at certain restaurants. But I'm sure some of the listeners wonder why a home mortgage's interest rate is so much lower than a credit card. And it sounds like it has to do with the fact that one is secured and the other isn't.
Yes, exactly. And the other FICO score components as well, like paying your bills on time and how much you have borrowed, also come into account and have an even bigger impact. But I can't emphasize strongly enough to your listeners the importance of maintaining credit discipline and improving your credit score.
And why is that?
Well, the higher your credit score, not only the higher chance that you'll be able to borrow money, but the less you'll have to pay to borrow by way of lower interest rates, right?
Okay, so let me see if I understand this. So your ability to borrow as well as borrow that money as cheaply as possible are direct results of your personal credit score.
Roger.
Randy.
No, Roger. So your listeners should pay their bills on time and not take out too much credit. And that helps them avoid high-cost unsecured credit like credit cards, payday lenders, and the like.
Man, Pete, thank you for explaining this to me and our listeners.
As always, thanks for the privilege of sharing this with our troops.
Absolutely, man. We'll be back here next week with a brand new Morgan Stanley Money Brief with Pete Perez right here on the National Defense.
This radio program does not provide individually tailored advice. It has been prepared without regard to the individual financial circumstances and objectives of persons who receive it. The strategies discussed may not be suitable for all individuals. Morgan Stanley recommends that individuals independently evaluate particular strategies and encourage them to seek the advice of a financial advisor. The appropriateness of a particular strategy will depend on individual circumstances and objectives. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC. With the active duty sweat protection of Gillette Clear Gel Antiperspirant, you can focus on looking your best. From your dress blues to your ACUs. From 0500 to the next, Gillette's 48-hour sweat and odor protection has got your 6 all day long, keeping you fresh and ready for action. Gillette goes on clear and doesn't leave white marks, so you always pass inspection with flying colors. Gillette Clear Gel Antiperspirant, tough on sweat and as ready for action as you are.
All right, welcome to F-150 Radio. Chad, go.
I know the F-150 kicks butt and takes names.
Like how the high-strength military-grade aluminum alloy F-150 thrashes the competition with best-in-class towing and torque?
Mm-hmm, totally saw that coming.
Chad, how do you know so much about F-150 beating the competition?
I drive the competition.
Ooh, I'm so sorry. The Ford F-150, it doesn't just raise the bar, it is the bar.
Best-in-class claims with properly configured vehicles. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds GVWR based on Ford segmentation.
We're standing guard with the truth. The National Defense.
Hey, welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller, and this is great. You know, ever since we have become partners with the great folks at Gillette, I just constantly find out new information. And it's just amazing, number one, how long Gillette has been around, but then number two, how long they've been associated with the military. And Greg McCoy is from Gillette. He is the senior archivist. And Greg, is it archivist or archivist?
Randy, one, thanks for having me. And two, you can say it either way you want.
Okay. But now you've been doing that for a while. You've been with P&G since 92, right?
I have, yes.
And
I've been the senior archivist for P&G's corporate archives since about 2012, but I've been in our archives since way back in 2000. So a long run.
What a cool job.
I have the best job in the world, Randy.
I mean, seriously, you know, and if you're going to be an archivist in a company like Gillette, man, I mean, you never run out of stuff to talk about, do you?
No, we don't. In fact, I find new stuff every day that just really just impresses me with the quality of the company, with the employees that we've had. But new stories are always coming out from the materials that we have.
Well, first of all, you know, it's Gillette's over 100 years old. So when you've got that kind of legendary existence, then you're going to have some great stories. But let's talk about some of these specifics that we wanted to get into today. First of all, 1914. In World War I, and Gillette got in to create some service kits for the military, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Gillette has been around since 1901, and almost from the very beginning, we've been supporting the military, proud supporters of the military. It was World War I. It was 1914. Yeah, there were a lot of close shaves that we gave in World War I.
Hey, before we get into that, now, speaking of the military, your family has been affiliated with the military for a while, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my family, a lot of folks within my family have heard the call and have provided service to the country. Very proud of them. Currently, my youngest nephew is serving. He is in the Army, and I believe he's just stationed right outside of Savannah, Georgia. So very proud of him.
Excellent.
My dad also served. Many uncles. I myself never did serve. I never heard that call. But proud supporter of everything that the folks go through and that they sacrifice.
And your dad was in the Navy?
My dad was in the Navy, yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, thank him for his service. And yeah, I mean, Gillette has been providing this kind of service like you were talking about for a long, long time. And, you know, we have we're based in Kansas City, and the World War I Museum is here. So I'm very, very familiar with a lot of the things, the gas masks and the things they had to go through in World War I. But how did Gillette help with some of that stuff?
So it's interesting that you bring up the gas masks, because that's essentially why Gillette did get involved. So we'll go way back to 1914. The war in Europe is raging, and the United States isn't involved for a number of years.
Right.
However, many Americans were hearing the call, and so they were enlisting in the Canadian Army or in the English Army, and then. So they were traveling over there. A number of these employees a number of these individuals were Gillette employees. And at the end of their service, they came back and they began to kind of tell the company, these are the types of kits, these are the issues that troops are having. The biggest was that the U.S. Army required troops to shave. And they required them to shave so that, one, their gas masks would fit properly.
Sure.
And two, if you think back about the conditions that the troops served under at that point in time, trench warfare was dirty. It was awful.
Right.
And so there was a lot of vermin, especially lice, that was living in the trenches with the troops. And if you kept a clean shave, you never had lice crawling all over your face. Huh. So there was a bit of hygiene as well as definitely a life-saving kit there. So the Army wanted troops to shave regularly, and in a big irony, they didn't actually provide a service kit.
So the troops were left to their own devices to find a way to shave.
Absolutely. They sure did.
Wow.
They sure did. And so there were a lot of different choices that they could make, but most of them chose the Gillette kit. And they chose the Gillette kit because of the way that we constructed it. So we understood from those employees that it served, whether it be in the Canadian Army or even there were some that were involved in border skirmishes with Mexico around 1914, 15, 16. They all understood that the kit had to be strong, durable, compact, and efficient. And that's exactly what the Gillette kit was.
Hey, Greg, let me ask you this. This is just an ignorant question on my part. But in 1914, were there other shaving companies even around?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
There were quite a few shaving companies. So Gillette is, today, the first name in shaving. It's what everyone thinks of when they think of having to shave. That wasn't always the case, though. I mean, like any other company, we had our origin and our struggles getting started and getting going.
But that's what makes the story even more impressive is the fact that even though there were other shaving companies around, Gillette was the shaving company that jumped in to help the military. That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely, Randy. And it really just kind of calls out again the fact that, the way that we've been successful is focusing on the guys and later the women that needed our products. And so what was important to them, let's design around that. And that's exactly what the service sets did in the 1900s. And
so not only the United States, but also the British armies took advantage of these shaving kits, huh?
They did as well. So for a while there, the individual soldiers had to buy their own kits. The great part, now a good little side story on that is if the soldier had already deployed, his family could purchase a kit. They wouldn't actually be handed a service kit, though. They would actually just place the order, and then Gillette would make sure that a service set that they ordered was delivered to their soldier, whether he's deployed in the field or sitting behind the line somewhere. We made sure that they would get that anywhere if he was serving anywhere in France.
Wow. You think about the logistics nightmare of that situation in 1914 to find the soldier, to deliver the shaving kit. I mean, it's a big effort.
It was, but it was one of those things that we felt it was critically important.
That is great. Well, and now, do you have a story about some of the troops and these kits?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, these kits were real lifesavers, not just with the gas masks, but in terms of a troop never wanted to be separated from his shaving kit. And we have documented cases where troops would write to the company and they would send back these damaged kits. And what was happening was that these kits were deflecting shrapnel or stopping bullets.
Oh, wow.
Because, I mean, you're talking about an all-metal construction, especially the nickel-plated kits were quite durable, very strong. There was one particular story. He was a driver in France, and his name was, his title was just Driver Martin. And Driver Martin was hit with a bullet. And the only thing that really stopped the bullet was the blade bank that was part of his kit. Now, the blade bank looks like a Zippo lighter, but inside of it is actually stacked about 10 to 12 blades. And it was the stacking of those blades that actually stopped the bullet from piercing through and killing him.
Well, as a matter of fact, now that you're talking about these kits, those are actually part of the display at the World War I Museum. Mm-hmm. They've got some of these shaving kits, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear it. I've also seen similar displays at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. I've seen them at the Smithsonian in Washington. So please definitely visit these museums and see for yourself what these kits look like.
What a great part of history. We were talking to Greg McCoy. He's the senior archivist of Gillette and Procter & Gamble and the Corporate Archives and Heritage Center. And speaking of Procter & Gamble, so is this Heritage Center something that people can visit on their own?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not open to the public. So
you get to keep all the secrets then, right?
We do. We're more than happy to share them. We love the opportunity to share them, but we're not open to the public. We service our business clients first. We welcome anyone that an employee would choose to bring in. So if you happen to know a Gillette employee or a P&G employee and you're in Cincinnati, talk to them and have them bring you in. We'd be more than happy to share.
Oh man, I bet you got some great stuff. Well, let's jump to World War II then now, Greg. So again, Gillette. Once they jumped into the military assistance situations, they just never backed off, did they?
No, we didn't. So the service kits that we kind of developed in World War I were still used in World War II. The razors themselves underwent some technological change over the years between the wars, but so the razor itself changed, but the kit essentially remained the same. The big thing with World War II is that all civilian production essentially ceased for about 4 years. So it was a total war effort. Our plant in Boston was only creating razors and blades. We created about 3.5 million razor handles alone, 35 million blades just for the war effort.
Wow.
At the same time, we retrofitted part of the plant to produce carburetor parts for Allied aircraft engines, and those parts ended up being used in 2/3 of all Allied aircraft engines. So it wasn't just about razors at that point. It was also how else can we help the war effort.
And what is this POW barbed wire front effort?
That's actually one of my favorite stories for World War II. So if those of you that are old enough in the audience may have seen the movie from the 1960s that starred Steve McQueen, it was called The Great Escape.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So a lot of these, that movie and many others are inspired by this organization that the U.S. government established. It was called MISX, and it had a British counterpoint, but their goal was to create what they called a barbed wire front. They wanted to help American POWs, air crews that were down. They wanted to help them evade and, if caught, escape from the Germans and cause them to expend manpower trying to keep these guys either contained within a camp or catching them. And so they did a lot of outfitting and training air crews. And Gillette gets involved because if they were captured, the troops were allowed by the Geneva Convention certain kits, humanitarian kits, to be sent to them. The Red Cross did wonderful work sending foodstuffs and games and all this kinds of things. And we never, ever endangered the Red Cross in this. But what MISX did was that they set up fake charities. And through these fake charities, they would send gift boxes. Now, probably about at the beginning, 2/3 of these gift boxes were what they called cold kits. And they were just standard stuff. They would have all regular things, playing cards, games, matches. They would also include shaving kits. Later on, they began to send what they called hot kits. Now, the hot kits were the ones that included those tools that the troops could use to try to escape. Gillette blades were critical to helping this effort because the blades would actually be used by the prisoners for many different ways. It's just ingenious to see how these guys use these things. But they would actually carve molds out of their boot heels to then pour little melted tinfoil, and they would make medals out of that. They would do all kinds of stuff.
Wow. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's great history.
That is some great stuff. Wow, not only is Gillette helping protect the military, they're helping them escape.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And that was just use the regular product. And then we really got creative when MISX came to us and they said, we understand that obviously they're metal. The blades are metal. Would it be possible to magnetize an end of that? We're like, yeah, that's easy enough. Why would you want to do that? And they said, we want to create crude field compasses so that it doesn't matter if they lose their survival kit. If they've got their razor kit, hang that blade by a string and it would still point to magnetic north. So that's how it started. But then they even got to the point of, hey, your razor handles are hollow, aren't they? And we're like, yeah, they happen to be hollow. Well, how hard would it be to take tiny little bits of paper and roll them up in there? We're like, and these were managers at Gillette talking to the folks at the government, all hush hush. And they said, well, what we would like to do is that we're printing counterfeit German money and German maps and German travel papers. We'd like you to go ahead and stash them inside the handles of the razors. We'll then include them in these hot kits and help the guys try to escape the camps. And we're like, the Gillette managers eagerly agreed to all this stuff. They completely kept it off the books. No dollar was ever charged for any of this work.
Wow.
And the managers would spend the night essentially working on the lines, rolling up papers and stuffing them into the handles of the blades.
Wow. Golly. I've never heard any of that stuff. That is fascinating.
it's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of some of those stories.
Well, Greg, listen, thank you so much for coming on the program. I would love to have you back on and talk about some more stories. And boy, Gillette, it just gives me an even greater appreciation for Gillette and what they've done for the military.
Randy, thanks for having me on. And I would just say, from everybody at Gillette, thank you to everyone that is in service, that has served. You are our heroes, and we will continue to go ahead and try to create products that serve and meet your needs.
We'll be right back with the National Defense right after this word from Farmers Insurance. When you're dealing with life's ups and downs, it helps to know the ins and outs of insurance. Farmers Insurance has been sharing practical insurance knowledge for more than 89 years. At Farmers, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Find an agent at farmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Gillette takes great pride in offering the right razor for every kind of face. Now you can get the right razor for your grooming needs when you need it with Gillette On Demand and have quality blades delivered right to your door. Subscribe to Gillette On Demand today and take $5 off your first order with special offer NDR5 at checkout. Enjoy free shipping, hassle-free billing, and you can change or cancel anytime. Visit online at GilletteOnDemand.com and remember, get $5 off your first order with special offer NDR5 at checkout.
How do you thank the millions of men and women who have fought so bravely for our country over the years? At the Home Depot, we think it takes more than words. We believe the best way to show gratitude is to do gratitude. The Home Depot Foundation is committed to veterans and their families, improving their homes and their lives. Since 2011, we've invested $160 million to veteran causes and impacted over 26,000 veteran homes. By 2020, we'll grow that investment to $250 million. From simple wheelchair ramps to complete home makeovers, transitional housing, community support, we consider it a duty and a privilege to serve senior, wounded, and homeless veterans the best ways we know how. After all they've given us, it's the least we could do. $250 million by 2020. Doing more for veterans. Doing gratitude. The Home Depot. More saving. More doing.
It's been called shell shock, war neurosis, and battle fatigue. Today, we call it post-traumatic stress disorder, and it affects 1 out of every 5 warriors returning from battle in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Wounded Warrior Project offers comfort and support for warriors with PTSD and all other scars of war, whether those scars are visible or hidden. Find out how to help, because for warriors, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. Please visit woundedwarriorproject.org.
All right, welcome to F-150 Radio. Hello, Miranda.
Ford F-150's terrific. Now let's get specific.
Okay. The high-strength military-grade aluminum alloy F-150 has best-in-class towing.
For campers and boats, for homecoming floats.
And best-in-class torque.
F-150's packing what the competition is lacking.
Nicely done.
Enjoyed it a ton.
The Ford F-150. It doesn't just raise the bar, it is the bar.
Best-in-class claims with properly configured vehicles. Classes full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds GVWR based on Ford segmentation.
With the active duty sweat protection of Gillette Clear Gel Antiperspirant, you can focus on looking your best. From your dress blues to your ACUs. From 0500 to the next, Gillette's 48-hour sweat and odor protection has got your 6 all day long, keeping you fresh and ready for action. Gillette goes on clear and doesn't leave white marks, so you always pass inspection with flying colors. Gillette Clear Gel Antiperspirant, tough on sweat and as ready for action as you are.
Hey, welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller, and time now for a brand new edition of Eye Insights with VSP. And Dr. Jim Winnick is back with us. Dr. Winnick, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Randy?
Good. This is the time of year, though, that you start getting hurt. This is, spring sports and the things that get in your eye, and it just happens. And I'm sure as in your practice, you see it all the time. But as far as sports goes, are eye injuries really that prevalent in sports? I could imagine they are.
Yeah, hugely prevalent. Actually, an interesting statistic, every 13 minutes, an eye injury is treated in an emergency room in the U.S.
Really?
And this time of year, baseball is the main cause of sports-related injuries in that 5 to 14-year-old category.
Yep, I remember that. What are some steps that people could take to avoid those sports-related eye injuries?
Well, the biggest thing is being conscious that they can and do happen, and having the correct protective eyewear to defend against the eye injury to begin with. So a lot of people have a misconception that just wearing regular eyeglasses during the sport is going to protect their eyes, but it's actually just the opposite, because regular designer eyewear isn't designed as a protective device, both from the frame perspective and, more importantly, from the lens perspective, because many of them are made out of basic plastics.
Right.
And unless they're made out of either a polycarbonate or a Trivex type of plastic, those are impact-resistant plastics. They can actually shatter and create penetrating injuries. Also, contact lenses. I mean, just because you're wearing contact lenses, which are very popular in most sports, doesn't mean you shouldn't wear protective eyewear for impact over the top of those contacts.
Yeah, and it seems like the eyewear now is that we're learning a lot and making it better. So that's a good thing. Dr. Winnick, what are some remedies if those irritants meet your eyes during a contact sport?
Well, in most instances, you've got a coach or a trainer that hopefully has either an eye wash or artificial tears or lubricating drops available, so you can flush out any foreign bodies that you might get during the activity.
Yeah, I would think that would be the immediate reaction there. And as far as other eyewear to wear outdoors, I mean, obviously in the sunshine, sunglasses.
Yeah, sunglasses. It's amazing to me that, especially with kids, parents will slather on sunscreen and make them wear long sleeves and big hats, but they don't wear sunglasses.
Yeah.
So whether you're actually in the sport, or even more important, sometimes when you're on the sideline watching the sport, wearing sunglasses that have 100% UV protection are going to reduce your risk for cataracts and glaucoma, macular degeneration, eye diseases that we know are related to UV exposure that we'll acquire later in life.
Dr. Winnick, for those who haven't heard, can you talk about VSP's news for our listeners?
Yeah, VSP has some pretty exciting news, that it's currently a vision carrier for hundreds of thousands of federal employees through the Federal Employee Dental and Vision Insurance Program, or what most people know as the FedVIP program. And that's great news, because certain retired members of uniformed services and their families, as well as most family members of active duty servicemen and women, can now access comprehensive vision care through the FedVIP. So you can go to choosevsp.com and review the VSP plan options and learn why you should enroll.
Fantastic. Dr. Winnick, thanks again for coming on the program.
I appreciate it, Randy.
Hey, brand new edition of Eye Insights with VSP next week, right here on the National Defense.
This has been the National Defense, made possible by Gillette Clear Gel Deodorant. It goes on clear and keeps you fresh all day, and it doesn't leave white marks on your shirt. By Ford, go further. By the Home Depot, more saving, more doing. By VSP, by Morgan Stanley, by the Wounded Warrior Project, by Gillette On Demand, by Farmers Insurance, and by Gorilla Glue, makers of Gorilla Tape. This portion of the National Defense is brought to you by Gorilla Glue, the makers of Gorilla Tape. Gorilla Tape has a tough, reinforced backing and is made with double-thick adhesive that grips to smooth, rough, and uneven surfaces. With a weather-resistant shell, Gorilla Tape can be used both indoors and out, which is perfect for applications in the field, including duck blinds, tree stands, and tent repairs. Gorilla Tape and Gorilla Glue for the toughest jobs on planet Earth.
Right now at the Home Depot, you'll save up to 35% off appliance special buys, like a GE Appliances top-load washer and dryer pair, with deep clean and deep rinse options, a reliable heavy-duty agitator, and 4 precise water levels, just $4.78 each. Wash, dry, save, repeat. Today is the day for doing, with Spring Black Friday savings now at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only while supplies last. Gas dryer extra. See store for details. Valid through April 17th.